Hi, I'm Meagan Johnson, and this is another episode of Profit versus Pitfalls, Young Entrepreneurs. What we need to learn from the young people who are taking risks around us, challenging our perceptions of business, and doing things differently. So today is a first because today I have Geoffrey Nail. He is a financial success coach. Geoffrey, hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. This is so exciting. I'm glad you're here with me.
Good to be here.
Now, I'm reading something that you sent me, and I love this. It says your goal is to maximize the knowledge that you have acquired to make a positive impact on those around you. Through your education and life experiences, you wish to share your gifts with those that can most benefit and continue to improve personally. I love that. So tell me what exactly, I was talking about what you do with my husband last night, and he said, well, what exactly is a financial success coach? So help us understand that.
Gotcha, yeah. Well, I have been in the financial industry for a little under 20 years, and in working in retail banking, I realized some of the pitfalls, some of the miseducations in terms of, the haves and the have-nots. And I got to a point where I wanted to do more than what I was able to do in my current title and positioning. So I went an independent route and got licensed with the financial industry and also like the insurance industry. And I started volunteering everywhere in terms of like being able to like speak and talk and get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I help people like just to increase their financial knowledge wherever that may be. Whether that's budgeting, investing, paying down debt, just having conversations with folks and taking some of the knowledge that I've obtained to almost be a filter. Because, you can Google search any like buzzword in the financial industry, and there's no shortage of articles that will corroborate, an opinion. Mm-hmm. So I try to be that filter for people to kind of take the information and put it in their respective situation.
So you were working in a traditional bank. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yeah, for almost 11 years.
Wow. And what was it like to decide, all right, I'm going to leave the security of working in a very, banking. That's a traditional recognized industry. We all understand, banks. But what was that like to decide you're going to go off on your own?
I compare it to a snippet from the Marvel Avengers movies.
Yes, I like this, and I like this comparison. Okay.
So I try to make it short, but Tony Stark, he had this Iron Man suit that would come from his watch, but it was still in prototype form. Uh-huh. He didn't know if it would work properly, et cetera, but he was put in a situation where he had no choice but to trust it. He's falling out of a building, and he has to make sure that, he has to call it so that he doesn't like hit the ground. Uh-huh. And, in a perfect world, in a perfect environment, that suit would have come as soon as he pressed the button, but it didn't. And short story longer, it came right before he hit the ground. And, he had done all the good work. He had, he had a nice amount of knowledge to know that it was a better probability that it would come, versus not. So it wasn't like he just, made this death jump. So I looked at it being in that secure environment. I took a lot of the advice that I learned. I saved my money. I put money into my retirement accounts and, every which way. And I got to a point where I felt comfortable enough to make that jump. Mm-hmm. Now, in hindsight, I could have done a lot more to prepare for that jump. But, it worked out and I learned so much through the journey.
Well, this is a first where I've had someone compare themselves to a superhero, but I really like it. I love this. And I love the fact that you use the Tony Stark character because he's sort of like a badass, sort of, he's not like a true, like he's kind of got a little bit of rogue in him. That's what I like about him as a superhero. He's not your clean cut superhero. He's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you looking back, you could have done more or done things a little bit differently while preparing for that jump. What comes to mind when you think about that?
Well, I feel like it's just easy. Like when you're in an environment that's secure, it's easy to kind of get complacent. I didn't volunteer nearly as much as I'm volunteering right now. I didn't read nearly as much as I'm reading right now. Networking was non-existent. So it was just so many things that I learned along the journey that allowed me to be successful today that, I thought I was doing well enough, before I made that jump.
And in talking to you before, being here today, what struck me is, and what I understood you to say was, one reason you wanted to make that jump was because in the traditional banking world, you said you didn't see a lot of people that looked like you.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I actually navigated in several different environments. So I started at the bank in a very affluent area in Michigan, and where I was, one of few African Americans at the time, and I navigated in different counties and different counties actually, so and then I moved, and then from Michigan I moved to Arizona, where again I was in the county in Maricopa County in the banking industry. There weren't a lot of African Americans.
No, not in Arizona. Heck no.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
So I feel like that's kind of helped me, and that's been like honestly the story of my life in terms of just being in rooms and environments where I had to be able to adapt.
And do you feel like when you say environments where you had to adapt, do you think that learning that skill helped you when you went out on your own?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the foundational piece that allowed me to have the capacity to learn along the journey, because I became very comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm like in any room, any environment, whether I'm, in a room full of African Americans, whether I'm in a room full of, all women, all men, different ethnicities, I'm pretty comfortable navigating conversations and, not necessarily being a wallflower, if you will.
I like that statement. You became comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's I borrowed that from somebody. I don't know where I got it, but I gladly use it all the time.
I will attribute to you. I like it. Now, can you give me an example of a situation where maybe it something that would be uncomfortable for you, and you've learned to be comfortable with it? And I'll tell you the reason I'm asking this question is a lot of younger entrepreneurs, I think, neglect that face-to-face interaction of their business because they don't feel comfortable with it, and they prefer, doing everything digitally. But you're saying you're volunteering, you're doing lots. So can you give me an example of something that you felt uncomfortable with, but you learned to become comfortable? You learned to become comfortable doing it.
Yeah, well, I will say that I'm heavily entrenched in the digital world. I will say that I do a lot of networking digitally, but in 2015, when I first started this journey, I would find a reason not to go home after the workday was done. So I would find events, groups, whatever was happening, just to get out, to go to networking events, chamber events, in any city, mastermind events, like anywhere any group was meeting. Like I would show up and just shake hands with people, introduce myself, and have those interactions. And even when I didn't do that, I was doing the same thing on social media. And then I got to a point where I was spending too much time doing that, and I wasn't necessarily getting a true return on investment in a way in which I felt value. So I stopped doing like professional networking events, and I made sure to just do like social events and philanthropic events.
Okay. That's interesting that you had that awareness that it sounds like you thought you were spreading yourself too thin with the volunteering or with the events, with networking events.
Yeah.
If a young entrepreneur wanted to know, hey, where would my time be best spent when it comes to volunteering? Because I know you mentioned to me that volunteering is a big part of your business. You see that as a big piece of, because it's kind of I remember you saying sort of ethically, that's who you are, and that's a part of your business. What recommendation would you give to a young entrepreneur if they're thinking, well, where should I spend my efforts when it comes to something like volunteering or networking?
I feel like it's kind of like a learn as you go type deal. I talk to a lot of people and they mention that they don't necessarily know what they're interested in at the start of this journey. So what I did was just cast a wide net, and I started mentoring with children.
Okay.
So that became a passion of mine because I felt a lot of the things that I talk to adults about in terms of the finances are things that they have to unlearn. So I figure if I'm kind of attacking things at both ends, if I'm talking to adults and helping them to unlearn, and I'm helping kids to learn in a more efficient way regarding just nuggets of information regarding money. So that was kind of how I landed on it. But I think that it really depends on somebody finding their passion. So at the point of me mentoring with children and doing all this work with kids, as I mentioned, I didn't want to spread myself too thin, but at the same time, like I'm involved in 3 different nonprofits right now.
Wow.
But they're all related to children and or financial services. So there are times when I'm doing 2 or 3 obligations at one time.
Oh my gosh. Now, I 2 points. One is I think you've hit the nail on the head that we really need to start educating young people early on about their finances, because I think young people receive such little information on how to make a budget, how to manage their finances, and it has such a huge impact on your entire life. But I'm intrigued by what you said that sometimes you have to help adults unlearn stuff. Can you give me an example of what would be an example of something that you would help an adult unlearn?
Well, I feel like the financial industry and budgeting is not really understood by a high percentage of folks. I feel like we just, fortunately and unfortunately, we kind of just get to a point where our income far exceeds our expenses. And we don't necessarily have a budget in place. We just know that, we're still in the green after everything is done at the end of the month. And, that is a privilege to happen because a lot of folks aren't necessarily in a position where their income far exceeds their expenses. So, I think in terms of unlearning, we're kind of taught to spend money before we're taught to earn money. So when you get your first job, as an example, or come into money for the first time, you already have like expenses going out the door. But the first thing to do is to treat yourself.
Yes, so, I do like the treat yourself part. I will admit I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. So your expenses increase at the first moment you get more money. So you're in this constant cycle of chasing your, this income, whatever it is. I want to get to 6 figures. I want to get to this. I want to get to that. And if you can control your expenses at a younger age and understand, running your household or your business, like a profit and loss statement, and I'm in the green. I got a few, dollars in the green. I got a few $100 or a few $1,000s in the green, and figuring out how you can manage that to meet some of your future goals and aspirations. So I think that's the big deal with unlearning is, figuring out, where the slow leaks in your household budget are or in your business is.
I agree with you about the slow leaks. Because I know for a long time one of my slow leaks was Starbucks. I mean, that was until my husband bought me an espresso machine so I could make my espresso at home. I definitely had it wasn't even slow. It was just it was just a big leak called Starbucks. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a common financial mistake you see people make? Is there one that you're like, I see that a lot with your clients?
I just think, I don't know that there's necessarily a common mistake. I think that there's just a miseducation in terms of a lot of the buzzwords. And I feel like it's kind of like the old game Lemmings, where you had the little, I don't even know like what the purpose of the game was a long time ago, but everybody followed monkey see, monkey do, like the Pied Piper. People are kind of doing what their parents did when they were, in the workforce, or what their grandparents did, or what their coworker or neighbor is doing. And they don't necessarily know why they're doing it. It's just like somebody told me I should, invest in Bitcoin. Somebody told me I should, invest in my retirement account. Somebody told me I should have insurance. And there's no real understanding of the why behind it. And if there is no understanding of the why, there's no passion or true desire to keep it going.
Yeah.
And
that is very true. Just the other night, I was having a conversation with a baby boomer, a friend of my parents, who was made a financial decision based on something her father, who is long deceased, had told her 30 plus years ago. And so I thought, and it could be still a good decision, but I thought, wow, you're operating with old information.
Yeah. And I tell people this all the time. It's meant as like a joke, but it's kind of corny. But I say the financial industry is not an as seen on TV turkey roaster. You can't set it and forget it.
I love those as seen on TV products. I'm going to jump back to something you said a little earlier, where you talked about sort of getting financially ready before you went out on your own. And I do think that's another struggle young entrepreneurs have. Can you give any advice on how to do that, or maybe when it's the right time to move out on your own?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of paying attention what some of the corporations do for their employees. So when you work for in a corporate environment, some of the things that you get in your benefits package are things you want to make sure you can still afford yourself. So the insurance, the retirement, whether it be health insurance, life insurance, 401k, an IRA, emergency savings. These are some of the things that we forget because the ego kind of gets in the way, and you're just like, you know what? I know what I'm capable of. I can go out here and I'm going to make money, and I know a lot of people, and, this is going to be easy. And I'm sure not many people think it's going to be easy, but at the same time, I think we don't understand how difficult and how uncertain things can get when you don't have that base salary, the security of 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like.
Was there anything that happened once you went out on your own? Was there anything that happened that took you by surprise? You think, wow, I didn't expect this to happen, or maybe I didn't expect this to be as challenging as it was?
Yeah, well, I'll say your network is huge. So I understood like the impact of networking, and I don't think it's really taught how to network. People think that networking is just hey, I do this, hey, I do that, giving business cards out. And networking is relationship building. It's remembering kids' names and birthdays, and keeping the relationship warm. So that's probably one of the biggest things for me. Is I had this false sense of security with the amount of people that I knew at the time, that that I would be able to easily navigate starting a business, because it's like, oh yeah, these folks, they they're good friends of mine. I know these people, I have their number, they'll do business. And yeah, that didn't work out. So I think that people can almost die on the vine, so to speak, in terms of the false sense of security with like a warm market. Whenever you go into sales or you're thinking about a business, it's like, oh, my warm market. And I think that it's almost beneficial to almost forego your warm market and, think about your warm market, down the line, because you can kind of get lost in it. You even if you have like a decent, warm market where a couple people that sustain you for the first few months or in your business, it's almost like a detriment, because you don't learn the habits needed to maintain that. So like you get that big payout, and then like 6 months, 9 months later, it's just like, oh man, that the money's dried up, and like you didn't learn like the habits that it took, the exercises, the things that you have to do in the dark, so to speak, behind the scenes.
Ooh, now that's intriguing. The behind the scenes, the stuff you do in the dark. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I think that's important. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that's vital.
Yeah, well, my last name is Nail, so I try to hit the nail on the head. Like,
I set you up for that. I didn't even realize it. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll quote Jay-Z. Jay-Z, Sean Carter. He's a rapper. He says that
he's married to Beyonce, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, I saw him. Yes. Okay.
But he was on a podcast, some years ago, and he said that everybody wants to emulate the end result, and nobody wants to emulate the things that it takes to get to the end result. Mm-hmm. So there's not an athlete that just comes out, like Tom Brady, just throwing touchdowns. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of sacrifice. Sometimes it hurts. A lot of times it hurts. But the things that the things that you do in the background, the practice, the things that aren't on video, the things that you don't get recognition for, those are the things that make you successful. And those are the things that you have to make it a habit to do in order, there's sometimes when, hey, I want to take a weekend off. Hey, I want to take a vacation, but I'm building this business. So, that can wait.
What would you say, maybe, is there one habit that you had to learn? You're like, that this was a tough habit for me to learn and adapt into my life?
Well, one thing for me that was huge, and I was just talking to a buddy about this, is I had to make a decision that when I wanted to double down on my business, I had to make the decision that I'm always on stage. So I make it a point like where I'm not necessarily going out to the drugstore in my pajamas, or not that I was ever doing that, but I mean, like, I'm always on it.
It sounds like you might have seen me at the drugstore earlier. Okay, keep going.
But I'm always ready for the next opportunity.
Okay.
So I mean, like, you never know the cashier, the person you run into, wherever you are, like, your mechanic, whoever. They can be the next opportunity that can potentially put you in the place that you need to be for your business or for your endeavors. So even if you go out in your pajamas, which is fine, if that's your thing, you want to always be prepared, not necessarily just, physical appearance, but mentally.
Okay. Yesterday I spoke to a young entrepreneur who is still in high school. And I mean, she has got so much going on her plate. And I asked her how she was able to mentally deal with it, and she talked about the importance of really just having some downtime. How do you, so when you say, you perceive yourself always being on stage, and I think your point is valid that, hey, you never know where you are. You might meet somebody that, that's a connection that that needs your services either now or maybe later on down the road. What do you do though to I don't know, mentally relax or check out, or is that maybe not part of your game plan?
Well, I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree with the young lady that you mentioned. It's vitally important to disconnect. Mm-hmm. And, I had a lady actually put it into perspective for me, in terms of, like, we always want to classify ourselves as extroverts or introverts, and what an extrovert is supposed to do versus an introvert. And, we oftentimes assume that an introvert is quiet and doesn't have anything to say, but they just get their energy from quiet environments. Mm-hmm. They're still talking. They're still, like, when they're comfortable, they're still, chatting and talking about their interests and passions, etc. And, same with an extrovert. An extrovert's still comfortable being in quiet environments, but they get their energy from this environment that is, out and about, mm-hmm. and having fun and, potentially being talkative. Mm-hmm.
That's a great definition of introvert and extrovert, by the way. Keep going.
Yeah, so I pride myself on basking in those moments, because I enjoy being in the center of a room, but I also enjoy being in the center of my living room with nobody else. So I take the moments and truly disconnect in those moments, and I'm not in the moment in the center of a room wishing that I was on my couch and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I just say, like, this is a temporary situation and let me make the best of it. Okay. And, I listen to like mainly I listen to instrumentals,
Oh,
instrumental music. So that's
oh,
truly my disconnect because I feel like we always have information being pumped in our heads
hmm,
and like in our line of sight. And, we go to work listening to our favorite music. We come home, listen to our favorite music before the pandemic. And, we're vegging out on television or sports or whatever it is. And I just like to be alone with my thoughts and have the instrumental music playing to block out any background noise.
hmm,
And I kind of decompress and download, what's transpired, what
yeah,
went right today, what went wrong, and take an inventory on things that I need to change or influence for the future days.
yeah. I agree with you 100% on the instrumental music. It's and into just the background noise is sometimes the noise just inside your head, and the instrumental music kind of seems to like turn down the volume on that.
Oh yeah, for sure,
And
for sure.
is that something you do every day, every week, every month,
Yeah, every day. I
every
mean,
day?
like my radio is hardly ever on.
Hmm.
If my radio is on, it's either an instrumental or an audiobook or a podcast
Hmm.
playing. I try to make some time on a daily basis to just be alone with my thoughts,
Okay.
and like I said, uh, download and decompress from what transpired, so I can make adjustments as needed. It's kind of like flying a plane. There's never a time where you're like just turning the turning the controls like just like in one direction.
Right.
You keep the nose like exactly where you want to go, and you make small movements to keep you on that flight path.
Yeah. Uh, and I want to talk a little bit more though about your business. It's so if one of a customer or one of your a potential client comes to you and asks you, so Geoffrey, if I do business with you or I go to a traditional bank or financial institution, what's the difference of working with you versus that kind of that in our mind we think about that brick and mortar bank on the corner.
I truly think that personal connection is shortchanged.
Hmm.
And when you're going to a brick and mortar facility, people move around, they get promotions, they change locations, and I can speak to my experience, like working at a bank for almost 11 years. Like almost every 2 years, I was at a different location or in a different role, or so it was fun for me. But I mean, like I don't in hindsight, I don't know how fun it was for people that got to know me. They come in, I'm not there any longer.
Hmm.
So right now I have the ability to grow with my clients. I'm licensed in multiple states, so if my client starts off here in Arizona and moves to Virginia, I'm able to adapt with them, and
Wow.
I'm still licensed in my home state of Michigan. So I think that the main difference and value is the fact that we're growing together.
Hmm.
I like to look at my clients and prospective clients even as friends. So like we're going to coffee, we're getting on a Zoom call to catch up for a little bit. I'm understanding their respective situations potentially a little bit deeper because I have the time to really take the quality of that interaction
Hmm.
to again take the information that I know and place it into their ballpark.
Have you ever had a client though that you weren't that crazy about? You didn't like them very much?
Oh yeah,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure, for sure,
How
for sure.
how do you handle that?
Well, I think it's important, on both sides to,
Hmm.
if it's not a good fit, then, that's why you get into business for yourself.
Hmm.
You keep you maintain that control. And I give that same empowerment to my clients.
Hmm.
If I'm not a good fit, then, I'm not trying to put any level of reciprocity on this relationship where you have to do business with me. If I'm not a good fit, then by all means, let's find you somebody who is a better fit.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I pride myself on opportunity costs.
Hmm.
And if I find that somebody doesn't truly value my time, in keeping meetings or keeping commitments, I will gladly just let that interaction kind of fade off into the sunset.
Uh-huh. I think you hit upon something important, opportunity costs, where often young entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs don't recognize the value of opportunity costs, or how expensive that can be.
Oh yeah, for sure. I read again somewhere, you learn more from empty pockets, heartbreak, and failure than anything else in life. And if I could go back, of course, the journey hasn't been, amazing the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But if I skipped the journey, I wouldn't have all the learning and experience that I have right now. And opportunity cost is huge. Like by us talking right now, you're not able to talk to somebody else, and vice versa. And a lot of times when we're just starting off as entrepreneurs, or to your point, a seasoned entrepreneur, it's hard to say no.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think that's very insightful. Is that sometimes sometimes it's the best answer is to tell somebody no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But the opportunity cost of talking to you, it's definitely the benefit outweighs the cost.
Thank you. Vice versa. Vice versa. Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young entrepreneur?
Be a sponge. Find people to add to your circle of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I think again it's shortchanged. People aren't taught how to network. You go as a new entrepreneur, and even some seasoned entrepreneurs, you go to an event and it's just like, hey, I sell houses. Hey,
mm-hmm.
I do this. And it's just like, but who are you? What do you like to do? What are you into?
Mm-hmm.
Because people are going to do business with people they are interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to do business with their friends, people that they admire or that they respect. And if you can, to the point of the high schooler that you mentioned, if she can take advantage of like her high school classmates in terms of truly building relationships with those people, like, that's like the best environment. She's potentially brushing shoulders with future CEOs and future business owners themselves. So if we can take networking beyond just this formality of exchanging business cards and business information, it's like, oh, I'm a plumber, I do this. I think that we can make entrepreneurship a lot easier and make life a lot easier, honestly, because grade school is the perfect opportunity to just build these relationships instead of just collecting contact information and Facebook friends.
Yeah. That is really very true. Geoffrey, I want to give you an opportunity. I want you to tell people how to find you, where would they go to find out more about you, the services you offer, connect with you. What would be the best route?
Well, I'm pretty much across every social media platform. That's where I really encourage folks to meet me, and I have a unique enough name where I'm easy to find. My name just got popular in the last 20 years, but I spell my name with a G, so Geoffrey, mm-hmm. and my last name is Nail, like a nail in the wall or a nail on the head.
Yep.
And I use Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm very big on creating personal relationships and sharing my journey, whether it's leadership, business, healthy lifestyle. I feel like the money aspect can kind of, we can lose sight of life focusing in solely on the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you make all this money, you save all this money, you invest all this money, and you don't have your health together, your mindset together, what is it all for?
Right.
So I try to be balanced in my approach in terms of, my presence on social media, my connections, my interactions, and, I invite people into connecting with me on social media. Facebook is probably the one that I use most, Facebook and LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I actually share a book recommendation, at least bi-weekly, of something that I've listened to, and try to share articles around financial services and, some things that I feel will be beneficial to folks.
Oh, perfect. Geoffrey, thank you so much. This has been terrific talking. It was what a wonderful approach to really what I think can be a very scary topic, finances, but a very important one. And I think the holistic approach you're taking is really what people need to hear and what people need to learn.
Well, thank you, Meagan, for having me here. I appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to keeping in contact. We
Yes.
talked about networking, right?
Yes, definitely. All right. My name is Meagan Johnson. This was Profit versus Pitfalls, Young Entrepreneurs. We were talking to Geoffrey Nail. What a great way to start the weekend. That was such a wonderful conversation. I'll see all of you later. Bye. So hang on.